Guys, Boxing Gossip coming to you live. It's about 5:45 on a Saturday night. I haven't been as active as I normally am on the channel in the past few weeks, but I've got a few hours spare this evening, so I thought makes sense to go live, makes sense to have a bit of discussion about some of the fights that are going down tonight, and let's potentially do some live commentary on some of the undercard fights as those start to play out. A lot of good boxing tonight. For me, the main fight is Ohara Davies versus Josh Taylor. Big fight. Kind of got almost like a James DeGale, George Groves, Billy Joe Saunders, Chris Eubank Jr. feel about it. You know, really good to see these two domestic prospects, two undefeated guys, two highly touted guys taking each other on at this stage of their career. It's going to be a good fight. It's going to be a good clash of styles. And as the cliche goes, somebody's O has got to go. There's also a really interesting card on Box Nation. And to be fair to him, Frank Warren's done a decent job to make this card, stand tall, really, because initially it was supposed to be the card where Billy Joe Saunders was to defend his WBO middleweight title against Kurt Cedars. That did not happen for a variety of reasons. Mainly Kurt Cedars being arrested for various misdemeanors, and the fight is no longer going ahead. But credit to Frank Warren, the bill is still going. It's still going despite the fact he faces stiff competition on Channel 5, and there's some pretty decent fights on it. Prospects like Jordan Thompson, Sanjeev Sahota, Archie Sharp, Ryan Garner, Daniel Dubois will be in action. Huey Fury's already been in action in an exhibition fight. We'll come to that in a minute. You got Sam McNess fighting for the Southern area. You got Darrell Williams versus Jermaine Smile rematching for the English super middleweight. Richard Baragni versus Anthony Yarde for the WBO European light heavyweight title. Bradley Skeet versus Dale Evans for the British, and Gary Corcoran versus Larry Akindeo for the vacant WBO Intercontinental welterweight title. So lots going on. First thing first, let me say hello to everyone in the chat. George is there, Balthazar's there, Jonathan's there, Terry's there, Craig's there, Aiden's there, John's there, JG's there, Chris is there, Stuart's there, Copen's there. So good evening to everyone. Thank you for joining me live. If you want to help me out, hit the thumbs up button now. Do it nice and early, and that's going to mean that more people will get some visibility to this stream, and it means we'll get more people joining us live throughout the course of the show. If you are joining for the first time, and the names in the chat are fairly regular names, but if you are joining for the first time, please do hit the subscribe button. Anyway, let's start by addressing what, in my opinion, is the elephant in the room. The element in the room? You can tell I haven't been doing this as actively. The elephant in the room, or I guess you could also say the elephant that isn't in the room. And specifically, I've got to say, and I hate to start the night's show with a moan, but I'm going to because I think it's warranted. The elephant that isn't in the room tonight is Huey Fury. I am extremely disappointed that Huey Fury's fight tonight is not televised on Box Nation. Now, before anyone points it out, I'm fully aware that his fight is an exhibition fight. I'm fully aware it's against a guy with a losing record. I'm fully aware it's only a 6-rounder. I'm also fully aware that he was apparently blocked from having a proper fight because of the WBO saying he couldn't fight ahead of his fight with Joseph Parker. But regardless of that, if you are going to have Huey Fury fighting, whether that's an exhibition fight, whether it's a real fight, whether it's a 4-rounder or a 12-rounder, I really think it is bizarre not to televise the fight. Huey Fury is a guy who has never had the biggest public profile. He doesn't have as charismatic a personality as his cousin Tyson Fury. In terms of his style, it's a style that I very much like. It's a style that I very much appreciate. But let's be honest, it's one for the purists, isn't it? He's not a devastating knockout puncher. He's not a remarkable athlete. He's not like an all-out aggression, all-action fighter. He's a technical boxer. He's a purist fighter. And Huey Fury is fighting in his very next fight for a version of the heavyweight championship of the world. Here, Box Nation, BT Sports, Frank Warren, etc., had a real opportunity to get him on TV. He's been extremely inactive. He hasn't been on the screens for a long time. And here they had a chance to get him out there. And appreciate the fight's only a 6-rounder. Appreciate it was an exhibition fight. For me, very, very, very disappointed that they decided to have that fight ahead of the bill going live and being shown on air. I think that was a real error. And it's a bit bizarre, this Fury situation. I've always believed there's more to it than meets the eye. And it's a very, very, very strange situation, this. The fact that the fight with Joseph Parker got cancelled first time round, I found bizarre yet predictable. And all the time there was various excuses, and there was the suggestion of the injury. I always wondered to myself, does Huey Fury, is he actually 100% cleared to fight? We've had these allegations of performance-enhancing drugs in the past. Is he actually cleared to fight? Now he was supposed to be making a comeback tonight, and he can't have a proper fight. It's an exhibition fight. It just doesn't really sit well with me. It seems very, very strange. There seems to be lots of trials and tribulations going on behind the scenes. I also noted when Frank Warren did an interview with Kugan Cassius on IFL TV in the past week, he made reference, or Kugan made reference, to the fact that the co-promotion for the Parker versus Huey Fury fight seemed to be with Hennessy Sports. Now, I've never really understood the relationship between Hennessy Sports and Frank Warren when it comes to promoting the Furies. But Frank seemed to be under the impression that Hennessy Sports were perhaps taking the lead in terms of the promotion. And I think he even went on to say that he wasn't sure that, what broadcaster the fight would be with. It may be that Parker versus Huey Fury potentially didn't even end up on, which would be a disaster for Huey Fury's future with them, and a disaster for Box Nation, who really have a chance here to have a big win by having a guy who holds a version of the heavyweight championship. And if he were to be victorious in that fight with Parker, some of the big fights that could potentially be made off the back of that in future is remarkable. So very, very strange situation, and I've gone around the houses a bit by discussing it there. But as a Fury fan, as a boxing fan, as someone who hasn't had the opportunity to see Huey Fury fight for absolutely ages because he's been so inactive, very disappointed that they haven't elected to show his fight on TV, especially given that he's fighting for a world title fight in his very, very next fight. A bizarre decision, a real strange situation, if you ask me. So Box Nation's going to go live in about 10 minutes. I'm going to commentate live, at least on the first fight, potentially on the second fight. It will depend how my voice holds up, because when you're not discussing with people, when you're just talking to the screen, the voice can get fairly scratchy after an hour or so. But we'll do one fight at least. I believe the first fight scheduled is Gary Corcoran versus Larry Eckendale, which is potentially quite an interesting fight. I believe the second fight is Darrell Williams versus Jermaine Smile, which was a fight of the year contender first time round. So very much looking forward to that. Obviously later on in the bill, some big fights as well. As I always say when I do this live commentary, typically because the Google Hangout is on a slight delay, typically I'm talking and you're hearing it approximately 10 seconds later. So if you're someone who wants to watch the Box Nation footage on your TV or computer or whatever, and wants to listen to my commentary with it, what I suggest is putting me on pause for about 10 seconds, and then the two screens should give or take sync up. You can obviously edit it to make it sync up. But I will be commentating live on the fights, and yeah, it's proved to be something that has generated at least a level of interest in the past. So hopefully I won't embarrass myself too much tonight. The big fight for the night, undeniably, I mean, the card is all about the Box Nation card. The big fight is the Channel 5 fight, Josh Taylor versus Ohara Davies. I'm absolutely buzzing for it. And actually, I can just see Anonymous commenting in the chat. So yeah, Huey Fury has had the fight, and as I understand it, he won in what wasn't an overly entertaining affair. I think it was, what I've heard, and I haven't seen this, so it may be completely incorrect. What I've heard is it was slightly resembling sparring, and he won. And the first few rounds, he really just sort of breezed through. But I will, I'll let you know. I'll just do a little search on that now, actually, and see if I can find some more information on that. But yeah, the big fight of the night, undeniably, is Ohara Davies versus Josh Taylor. And it really seems to be a fight that has divided the public. When the fight was initially announced, I think Josh Taylor was regarded as an overwhelming favourite. More recently, the momentum seems to have shifted, and I'm seeing a lot of people picking Ohara Davies. And one of the main reasons for that seems to be the suggestion that Josh Taylor is not going to live with Ohara Davies's power. Now, I would agree that Ohara Davies will be the biggest puncher that Josh Taylor has fought at this time in his career, although you could potentially say the same in reverse. I've also noted that Josh Taylor was a hell of a lot heavier than Ohara Davies at the check weigh-ins. So potentially he's someone who's quite big for the weight. Potentially he's someone who's cutting a huge amount of weight in order to get down to 140, and that may mean he's susceptible to going up. It may mean he, you know, what I'm trying to say is it may mean that he's more susceptible to the power of a puncher like Ohara Davies. But there we go. Let me know your thoughts on that fight, guys. Let's get some predictions going. There's 75 of you watching live. If you are one of the 75, please hit the thumbs up, and let's get some I'll read out some predictions live in the chat as to you know, as to what the result for that fight is going to be. John thinks Josh Taylor by points. Anonymous says, I think if Taylor presses Davies, he could win on points or late stoppage. Team Groves says Taylor being the bigger man could be a disadvantage down the stretch. Ohara does the rate really well. Yeah, Ohara fought at lightweight earlier on in his career. Oz is saying OD KO. Craig is saying OD late stoppage. John is saying Taylor UD. Paul is saying Taylor stops Davies mid to late. All right, Paul, hope you're doing well, mate. Karen says Ohara stops into the body. Vinny says Davies all day. Cryptic says Taylor gets stopped. Mr. Twizzle, Davies stoppage. Daniel, Taylor TKO. Boom, Ohara KO. Mixmaster, Davies has to win by stoppage. He'll never get the points win. That's a good point. You know, fighting in Scotland in front of a pro Taylor crowd on a rival promoter's show. Will he get, you know, will we see, will there be another discussion about judging here? Chris Dyer says OD on points. Aidan, OD late stoppage. Peter Green, Davies. Adam, Ohara points. So it seems to me there that, and I haven't, you know, I haven't properly done the maths, but it seems to me there that a majority of people, and probably a clear majority, probably 70%, maybe even 3/4, are picking Ohara Davies to win the fight. Which is interesting because I think when the fight was announced, you could probably say 3/4 of people were picking Taylor, and the bookmakers certainly have Taylor a favourite. What he did yesterday when I checked, so very, very interesting. Let me start by saying, and I hope this isn't an unpopular thing for me to say, but if it is an unpopular thing for me to say, I'm going to say it anyway. I want Ohara Davies to win this fight. I've really taken a liking to Ohara Davies. I understand that people may perceive some of the stuff he says is ugly. I think at times he has been over the top. I really like him. You know, Ohara Davies, I heard in an interview him saying that if he hadn't gone out and done all the talking and done all the branding, he'd probably still be fighting at your call. And do you know what? He's probably not wrong. Ohara Davies has gone out. He's made a name for himself. He's performed when he's needed to perform. He's hyped when he's needed to hype. He's bought the WWE. I actually think Ohara Davies is at times a genuinely entertaining individual. I remember him coming out to the Undertaker theme tune against Derry Matthews, and literally I was on my sofa, sitting right here, cracking up, like loving it. I watched Ultratech Sports video where he was discussing this fight, and I'll tell you, Ultra's a funny guy, you know, 7 days a week and twice on the Sunday. But I was creasing when he was talking about Ohara Davies and how he was playing the press conference with the McGuigans, and, you know, saying that he thinks Josh Taylor is a nice boy and saying, have a good day, Josh. You know, Ohara Davies, for me, don't get me wrong, there's been times where he's maybe been quite unsophisticated with the hype he's bought and the insults he's bought. I think recently some of the hype and some of the build-up he's brought to fights have actually been relatively clever and quite entertaining. So I'm going to give Ohara Davies, you know, a fair amount of credit and a fair amount of respect. He's someone who I enjoy watching. He's someone who I enjoy seeing interviewed and seeing in the build-up to fights. And I hope he does win, because, you know, Josh Taylor, he's looked very, very good in the ring to me. But, you know, he's not someone who I've got behind as a personality. Now, who I want to win and who I think is going to win are very, very different questions. Clearly, it's a very close fight. Clearly, it's a very, it's a pick 'em. You know, it's a fight where you could make a real solid case for both people. And, you know, when you've got a situation like that, it's always, you know, it's always interesting in terms of who you think is going to win. Stylistically, they're very, very different fighters. They've both got definite strengths. There's potential weaknesses in both of their games. Based on what I've seen so far, I think a slight edge has to go to Josh Taylor. I think he's by far the bigger man. And again, agreeing with my man Ultratech Sports, I think Josh Taylor is far more advanced in terms of footwork. I think Ohara Davies he's a very different kind of fighter to Chris Eubank Jr. But I think he's the kind of fighter who's similar to Chris Eubank Jr., can be very, very effective when he's facing a guy who stands in front of him flat-footed. And he can be very, very effective when he's fighting against a stationary target or a guy who's got no slickness to his game. But I think a guy like Josh Taylor, representing a moving target, representing a guy who's going to be bobbing and weaving and changing angles, I think Ohara Davies at that point can be a bit flat-footed and can potentially rely on throwing, looping, winding, wide lead power punches without the real emphasis on accuracy and that sort of thing. So it's a very interesting fight. It's a fight that I really could see going both ways. It's a fight that I think I really want Ohara Davies to win. But if you're asking me for my final call, based on a 55 to 45 pick, I think Josh Taylor is the most likely winner out of the two. Now, without further ado, I can see that the Box Nation coverage has started. The two guys are in the ring, Gary Corcoran versus Larry Ekendeo. So if you want to watch the live commentary, I suggest that you try and sync up between me and what's on your screens now. This is a fight in the welterweight division. I believe Gary Corcoran previously campaigning at light middleweight, certainly light middleweight when he fought Liam Williams, which I guess is his most famous fight. And he's going up against Larry Ekendeo. Now, Larry Ekendeo, 12-0, and this is a fight for the vacant WBO Intercontinental welterweight title. So Larry Ekendeo, 35, he's no spring chicken, and he's 12-0 with 3 stoppages, so perhaps not the biggest puncher in the world. If you look at his record, it's relatively light. He's got a KO win over Dale Evans, who we'll see Bradley Skeet fight later on in the Box Nation programming. But his last fight was against a guy who was 23-58. You know, in 2015, he fought William Warburton, who's got 80 losses. There's some form in Larry Ekendeo, but, you know, he's 35 years old and he's yet to have a big fight. So this is his big opportunity, I guess you could say. Gary Corcoran clearly represents the fresher of the two, certainly in terms of age. I'm just checking on Boxer now. I believe he's 26 years old, which he is, born in in 1990. He's had a comeback fight against a guy with 35 losses following on from his loss to Liam Williams, and he won that fight by KO. Previous to that, he had some level of decent form. He beat Rick Godin, he beat Rick Skelton, Danny Butler, and he was in a very, very good fight against Liam Williams. You know, he dragged Liam Williams into the trenches a bit. So I can see the referee is giving his final instructions. Very much looks like things are about to get started here. So without further ado, we'll begin the commentary, and in breaks between rounds, I'll go to you guys and we can see how we're scoring this fight. You know, maybe one of those very close fights to score. Let us see. But the referee has waved them on, and the guys have begun. It looks like both fighting out of the orthodox stance. And straight away, Gary Corcoran is on the front foot and looking to close down the reins. It's a bit scrappy straight away. You know, these not looking like two guys necessarily who have a great interest in fighting on the back foot, exchanging jabs. Corcoran is very much coming forward and looking to force the pace here. A few punches landed from both sides so far, much of a muchness, not a huge amount in them. Gary Corcoran trying to position Ekundeo, who's potentially a smaller man, behind his jab, and then throw other punches behind it. Ekundeo possibly adopting more of the back foot approach in this fight so far, circling and trying to counter. I've seen him now twice land with lead punches on Gary Corcoran. He's throwing, you know, some slightly unorthodox punches, that he's leading with, maybe a lead right cross or a lead punch to the body. But he's doing okay here, Ekundeo, in the early round. Corcoran comes forward and, is bringing the pressure, but it's perhaps unclear whether Corcoran has landed anything of real quality as we come to closing halfway in the first round. Ekundeo picking his work from range, and so far it's been much of a muchness in this round, I would suggest. Corcoran does appear to be a bigger guy, which isn't really a surprise given that he's coming down from light middleweight. I guess the bigger question will be who will be the superior technician and who will land the higher quality of work. So we've done about 2 minutes of the first round. And again, I think I'm seeing Ekundeo starting to catch Corcoran a bit as Corcoran comes in. Ekundeo is, timing him relatively nicely and potentially making Corcoran look a bit ragged here. Although it's one of those rounds where it kind of depends what you like, because Corcoran very much bringing the pressure and being a come forward guy, whereas Ekundeo is more sitting on the back foot with his back to his ropes, trying to pick away and trying to catch Corcoran as Corcoran's coming in. But Ekundeo is having a bit of success. As we go to about 30 seconds of the first round even. Ekundeo getting off first there, landing a right cross and now picking away with a left jab. Corcoran is swinging but missing, and Ekundeo's back's to the ropes and he's getting low and he's trying to hold and he's trying to spoil as we come towards 20 seconds left of the first round. Corcoran very much adopting a pressure fighter approach here. He's been made to look slightly inaccurate. Part of that is due to Ekundeo being defensively minded. Part of it really is due to what appears to be quite raggedy technique, in my opinion, from Corcoran. So I'm interested. End of the first round, hard round to score. I'm going to give the round to Larry Ekundeo. I thought he landed the more noteworthy punches. I thought he was the more inaccurate. I thought he was the more accurate. I thought Corcoran was made to look a bit sloppy there. Hit me up in the chat, guys. Who do you score the first round to? Creators, Larry looking tidy on the back foot. Big Hitman says Corcoran lost the first for me. Any more for any more? Who won that first round? Give us your scorecards and we can compare and contrast our scorecards with what the judges score, if it goes to the judges, of course. And it looks like we're getting ready for the second round. Let's see if the pattern of the second round continues. Thomas gave the first round to Larry. Larry comes straight out in the second round, leads with a right cross and catches Corcoran on the top of the head. You know, nice scoring punch in the first second of the second round there. Corcoran again is stalking. He's trying to be the come forward guy. And he is using his jab when he comes forward, but there's the way he's moving into range is quite sloppy and creating some inaccuracy and creating just a bit of a mess, really, in terms of what he's doing. He's standing off Ekindeo a bit now, and the two guys are fighting at that sort of full-length range. Corcoran misses 3 or 4 punches wildly, you know, just missing jabs by a foot, missing another jab. He's really being made to miss here, Corcoran. Really being made to miss. He is adding the pressure. In some ways, the fight almost reminds me, and Ekindeo counters him nicely there on the way in. Similar pattern. In some way, the fight reminds me of Anthony Ogogo versus Craig Cunningham, where Ogogo was just fighting a slightly slicker back foot guy, you know, someone fighting going backwards, and just couldn't find the range with his punches. And, you know, Gary Corcoran is really missing with every jab he throws at the minute. And he's getting into range and throwing haymaker-type punches, but they're not really much of note. And Ekindeo is kind of bobbing and, you know, dodging underneath them and that sort of thing. So, yeah, potentially a concern here for Gary Corcoran, who I would imagine would have been the favourite coming into this fight. You know, fight started better from Larry Ekindeo for me here. Possible, you could say that Corcoran has the appearance of being the bigger puncher out of the two. So, you know, you have to see if he'll get to Larry Ekindeo, and you'll have to see if Larry Ekindeo, how his stamina holds up fighting this back foot game, because Corcoran is the one bringing the pressure and bringing the volume here. But for me, Corcoran is looking pretty sloppy, I've got to say. Ekindeo, though, despite the fact that Corcoran's looking sloppy, Ekindeo has still got to make sure he's getting off enough of his own work, because he seems content to sit on the back foot and allow Corcoran to come onto him. And he's making him miss well, but unless he lands noteworthy punches himself, there's a high chance that the judges will still be scoring the fight to Gary Corcoran. So, interesting fight, very cagey. Accuracy and his lack of it is the real theme of this fight in the early 2 rounds. We've got 20 seconds left of the first. Ekindeo standing off Corcoran, trying to pick with a jab. Corcoran's bobbing, letting Ekindeo get off first. He goes with a left hook and a right cross. Corcoran comes back with 1 or 2 straight punches, inaccurate again. Not impressive stuff from Corcoran for me early on. That's a very hard round to score again. The first round I edged to Ekindeo. The second round I could legit score either way. I really could score either way. Let me know who you think won that round. Probably going to give it to Gary Corcoran. I'm going to score it 1-1 after 2. I just don't think Ekindeo did enough. I thought he made Corcoran look very poor, but there was a lack of notable scoring punches. Craig says Larry's going to get caught soon with a bomb. Daniel says scrappy round. Corcoran, I think. Craig says it's messy. Cameron's giving it a draw. Craig's scored it 19-19. Okay, so we're largely on the same page here, guys. I've got it 19-19 after 2 as well. And the guys are getting it ready for the third round. Referees holding them in their respective corners. And we're off for the third, guys. Tentative early opening. Ekindeo picking away with a jab. Corcoran seems a bit more content to stand off and try and jab with him here, which is interesting. I don't know if that's advice his corner's given him. You know, obviously I've had the volume down because I'm commentating, so missed it. So Corcoran's gone with a right cross there, and Ekindeo's ducked under it, and really Corcoran's missed by a foot again there. Corcoran misses by a sloppy jab, and Ekindeo counters to the body. This is what Ekindeo needs to do. He needs to make him miss, and then he needs to make him pay. And it doesn't have to be a brutal knockout. You know, he's not that kind of fighter, clearly, but just got to pick away. Just got to land a jab. Just got to land something snappy. Catch the judge's eye. Make them know it's a scoring punch. This is better from Ekindeo here. We've done a minute now, just coming up to a minute. of the second round. And Ekondeo catches Corcoran there with a right overhand type looping cross. Quite a sloppy punch, but nevertheless catches Corcoran clean on the chin area. Corcoran is swinging and missing. You know, really wild Corcoran here. He's looking like an out of control whirlwind, and he's missing a lot of punches here. He's grinding away on the inside, but really the way he's transitioning into range is very questionable in terms of technique. Ekondeo appears to be the far more skilled, more slick operator out of the two. He's just got to be mindful that he needs to keep banking away, scoring punches. But he does that again there. Corcoran again caught with that sort of right overhand type cross that Ekondeo is throwing. And he caught Corcoran very cleanly there. Corcoran's not bothered by Ekondeo's power, it seems. You know, Ekondeo doesn't appear to be the biggest puncher, and Corcoran's probably a bigger, stronger guy. But, you know, for me, punches of note here landing for Ekondeo. Who's keeping range quite nicely here. He's stepping out of range, making Corcoran miss, and really highlighting those misses by the level of inaccuracy Corcoran's experiencing. He's on the back foot now. Corcoran's kind of positioning him into a corner, but Ekondeo's keeping range with his feet, keeping range with a jab. Yeah, it seems like overall we've just got a complete lack of education here for Corcoran, who misses again by 6 inches or more with a right cross there. There's a lot of wrestling going on. It's very messy. There's a lot of hugging and wrestling going on here. Corcoran misses again wildly with a lead right, and we're up to close range. We're up to sort of a lot of hugging here. And this is all very scrappy as we come towards the last 10 seconds of the third. Ekondeo, by far the most effective with straight punches. Corcoran bringing the pressure. Interesting fight in terms of scoring here, guys. Don't be surprised if this is one with controversial scoring, because it does depend what you like. On my card, that's an Ekondeo round. 2 rounds to 1 for Larry Ekondeo. How are you guys scoring round 3? Hit me up with your comments in the chat. If you're joining live, please hit the thumbs up button. Cameron's given a round to Ekondeo. Big Hitman's got it 2-1 to Ekondeo. He's agreeing with me. Andy's got it 2-1 to Ekondeo. Starting round 4 now, guys. The ref waves them in. Both guys meet in the centre of the ring, and they're starting to pick from range. Ekondeo possibly being first to land with some early long-range punches. They're now in close range, and Corcoran's trying to get work off. He's almost in danger, Corcoran, of getting too close here. He kind of flails a wide punch to make Ekondeo get into a defensive mold, and then he comes in to the inside, but he's not really doing it in a manner of educated pressure. He's going straight from wide outside to straight inside. He's not really positioning himself so he can get clean work off on the inside. He's so close to Ekondeo that he's smothering and stifling, and it's all very, you know, it's very huggy on the inside. But he is doing more than Ekondeo. And that is key, I think, from a scoring perspective, because even though Corcoran's made himself look pretty terrible in the first minute of the 4th round, Ekondeo's done very little to allow you as a judge to score it in his favour. And Corcoran continues to pile forward. And you never know. He's fighting a guy who's a lot older than him, who looks smaller than him, who hasn't fought at this kind of level before. Maybe that continual pressure from a bigger guy will start to take its toll. And Corcoran has just caught Ekondeo there with a little short left hook on the inside and then a lead right cross as well. So maybe the first signs are getting there. That a guy like Larry Ekondeo, who's maybe more of a long-range boxer, could potentially be tired and could potentially be worn down by the bigger, younger guy who's fought at the higher level. We've got 1 minute and 10 seconds left of round number 4. And I'm afraid to report on my screen is an absolute hugfest at the minute. You know, there's a lot of embracing this round, not a lot of clean punches from either guy. They found a bit of distance now, and Ekundeyo's picking from range. He lands a very nice 1-2 from range. Corcoran's chin is very susceptible. It's very up in the air. His guard is nowhere really to be seen. And Ekundeyo, when he is throwing, is landing well. And he's just caught Gary Corcoran very well with a right cross as Corcoran's come on the inside. Ekundeyo is finishing this round well, but he needs a strong last 30 seconds here, because at the minute I've got Corcoran ahead in this round based on activity. Corcoran is throwing a huge amount of lever here. He's really coming forward, again in huge danger of stifling his work, but Ekundeyo back to the ropes and wheeling out towards the centre of the ring. Ekundeyo lands with that right lead overhand cross type punch again, catches Corcoran clean with it. He's had real success with that punch. We come to the end of the 4th round, guys. And again, it's a round. This is a very close fight. Very close fight here. I'm going to edge that round to Gary Corcoran, I think, based on activity. So I've got it 2-2 after 4. Big Hitman is said very sloppy. He'll go 2-2. So Big Hitman and I have scored it very, very similar between the two of us pretty much every round. We've got it as a draw after 4. Daniel says, I think you can score that round a draw, but I edge it to Corcoran. Yeah, when I'm scoring rounds on commentary, I tend not to really score them a draw. I can see Joseph Parker and Huey Fury chatting ringside now. They seem to be having a fairly friendly conversation. But yeah, I would have. I tend not to score rounds a draw because it's irregular for judges to do that in real boxing. But here you go. So round 4 begins. Round 5 begins even, should I say. Corcoran again coming forward. Ekundeyo again trying to work the jab. Yeah. Can see Coogan Cassius ringside. Seems to be having a whale of a time. All a bit scrappy, all a bit sloppy here. Neither guy totally covering themselves in glory here. Ekundeyo catches Corcoran again. You know, that's a telling punch. When I know Corcoran showed a relatively decent chin against Liam Williams. He really is susceptible to getting caught here. You know, he really is. And Ekundeyo lands again straight on Corcoran's chin. When Ekundeyo gets hit, even though Corcoran's the biggest puncher, Ekundeyo seems to kind of only half take the punch, whereas Corcoran really is eating these. Ekundeyo's back is to the ropes now. He was kind of caught in the corner for a second there, but Corcoran was kind of off balance, and it gave Ekundeyo some time to wheel away and to bring the fight back to the middle of the ring. Action slightly hotter there for the last 10 seconds or so. Corcoran's got Hellraiser on his shorts, and he's really looking to bring that heat and bring that action. Just a lack of technique. Again, Ekundeyo ducks under a slow, sloppy lead from Corcoran, and Corcoran misses by, you know, a foot or more. Ref's having a bit of a word with 2. And I'm just trying to see. It looks like the tape has come loose on Corcoran's gloves. I thought he was taking a point for a second there, but no, it appears to be that the tape has come loose on the glove. And the referee waves them back in with about 1:20 left in the round. Corcoran throwing a lot of punches, being very, very inaccurate here. Punches he is landing. They're not seeming to have the biggest effect on Ekundeyo, but for me, there is a slight concern that Ekundeyo just isn't doing enough. You know, I look at this 5th round, for example, and we've had 2 minutes of the 5th. Ekundeyo's caught Corcoran clean with a few punches, but he's been so low volume in comparison to Corcoran. It's almost hard to score it in Ekundeyo's favour here. Don't be surprised if we get dramatically varied scorecards here with the 2 judges in huge disagreements, because if you're one of those who prefers that slick back foot style, you could be giving Ekundeyo everything here. If you're one of those who prefers the pressure and the pace, very possible for you to give Gary Corcoran everything here. So will be interesting to see what the scorecards look like at the end of the fight. Very interesting. Ekendaya almost turned his back on Corcoran there, and Corcoran's charged forward looking to try and put pressure on, but again he's left his chin in the air and been caught by a short hook from Ekendaya, who's picking away. Corcoran is starting to maybe get to Ekendaya a bit more, though. You just wonder if some of the pressure is starting to build on Ekendaya, and whilst he's picking away and landing nice single punches and nice leads, for me, the momentum now sides with Gary Corcoran, and I give that 5th round to Gary Corcoran, actually. I do. I think he just about snuck it. It's a tight fight. Probably the best single punches were landed in that round from Larry Ekendaya. But I feel, on the whole, he's not doing enough. I feel that the pressure of Corcoran is starting to tell. And I'm starting to think Gary Corcoran in what is quite a scrappy affair here. So after 5, I'm going 3-2 in favour of Gary Corcoran. Ekendaya needs to raise the pace. He needs to get his jab. He needs to double it up. He needs to keep with that right cross lead because it's landing, but he needs to focus on getting more than one punch off, and he's got to focus on the regularity of those punches. Because Corcoran is likely going to come on strong, being the younger man here. We're 15 seconds into round 6, and Ekendaya's back is to the ropes already. Corcoran coming forward, flailing with punches. Not necessarily hugely accurate, but maybe he's getting a bit closer to Ekendaya. Maybe some of the defensive keys of Ekendaya are slightly starting to wane here. Will be interesting to see as the fight progresses. We've done about 45 seconds of round 6, and Corcoran very much the front foot guy, as is I see Joseph Parker ringside, enjoying this matchup. We're in hug mode again, I'm afraid. The two guys too close for anything of real note to be thrown. Probably not a vintage fight from either guy's perspective here, I'm afraid. It's been fairly forgettable stuff, being frank. Ekendaya gets caught there. Corcoran times him nicely and lands a right cross from range. It was a long punch. Ekendaya's taken it very well, but that's the kind of punch that Corcoran was missing earlier in the fight. Is he adjusting to Larry Ekendaya, or is Ekendaya maybe becoming susceptible to getting caught in more of those punches as the fight goes on? They exchange punches now. Corcoran gets caught on the way in, but lands one of himself, and Ekendaya's in the corner here, very much with his back to the ropes, and he's punching away, but Corcoran appears the stronger man here. He's bullying Ekendaya ever so slightly. Heads are coming in. Ekendaya drops with an uppercut, which works well. But he's on the back foot, and Corcoran is coming forward again and again and again here. We've got about 40 seconds left in round number 6. And for me, I'm going to say I've got Corcoran starting to take a lead in this fight. Ekendaya is still having levels of success. There isn't really a lot between the two guys here. But the momentum does appear very much to me to be with Corcoran. And the referee split them up here. I think he's having a word with Ekendaya. I'm not sure if the suggestion is that it was a bit low. But he waves the fight back on. And there must be about 10-20 seconds left of this round. My throat is starting to kill me, guys, so I will have to try and make myself a little drink quickly in the next ad break. So bear with me for 1 second. It's not the next ad break, the next break between rounds. And the round continues with Corcoran bringing all sorts of pressure, and he does win that round for myself as well. 4-2, Gary Corcoran on my So we've done 30 seconds of round 7, and the pattern of the fight seems to be very, very much continuing. A lot of scrappy non-punches, a lot of hugging. Really a pretty forgettable fight so far, I'm afraid to say. If I was in Ekundayo's corner, I'd be exceptionally frustrated here. I really would be. This is a fight that Larry Ekundayo should be winning for me. He's done a decent job of making his opponent miss. He's done a decent job of his opponent, of catching his opponent, but he just looks weaker than Corcoran. He's been lower volume throughout the course of the fight, and he's kind of resorting now to almost trading and almost dropping himself to Corcoran's level here. And there's a lot of refs having another word with them here. It really is a mess. It's not a very pleasing fight. Craig's put in the chat, styles make fights, and these fights styles are 100% incompatible. Forward again, Ekundayo with his back to the ropes, it's something that is going to cost him that. The visual impression you're left with here, Corcoran, he's been a little bit dirty. He's pushing the head back, he's putting his head in. But the visual impression you've got here is of Ekundayo running around the ring, and even though he's landed a few nice leads and that sort of thing, he's just not quite doing enough, really. He's just not doing enough to score these rounds in his favour. And it's the same because you can he's caught there, Ekundayo, and Corcoran's just kind of got him against the ropes, and he's grinding away, and he's not landing a huge amount, and the stuff he is landing is very scrappy, but it is enough. It's enough given that his opponent is just not getting his work off in the manner that he was in the early rounds. I thought after 2 rounds, Gary Corcoran could be in a bit of trouble here, but just doesn't look like Larry Ekundayo is as fresh as him, and potentially doesn't want it as much as him tonight, I'm afraid. We come to the end of the 7th, and the round very, very much continues with the same pattern that it has throughout the rest of the fight. And the referee calls them for round 7. Right, guys, so we're back in round 8. Let me know how you guys have scored it after 7. Drop your scorecards after the first 7 in the chat. You can see there's about 75 of you guys watching live, so shout out to everyone who's joining me. If you're watching live, please hit the thumbs up. Please subscribe if you're new. We're in round 8, Corcoran versus Ekundayo. I've got it 5-2 up to Corcoran here, and I've got him starting to pull away in this fight, despite the fact he's looked very average, in my opinion. We've just had about 15-20 seconds of hugging, and the ref splits them up. Ekundayo picking from range, but he's starting to be as inaccurate himself, I'm afraid, and it really a difficult fight to watch, a difficult fight to commentate on as well, I must admit. Hard to accurately describe exactly what is going on. Corcoran has got Ekundayo towards the corner again. Ekundayo's backs are on the ropes again. Corcoran is too close again. His head is going in again. He's smothering his own work again. And the pattern of the fight is very well established. And my fear is we're halfway through round 8. You're probably going to have to sit through another 4.5 rounds with this pattern. It hasn't been a fight where there's been too much variety so far. Corcoran, you could say he's being a bit dirty here. He's doing this thing of trying to lift Ekendeo's head up with his forearm when he comes in. He's really struggling to find Ekendeo on the inside. And even though he's winning the rounds, it must be very frustrating for him because he's applying a lot of pressure and not getting a lot of result. Got a minute left in the 8th round. Both guys whirling away now. Looks like one that potentially could go the distance. I haven't seen either man looking in noticeable trouble. Corcoran is, he's caught Ekendeo with a short right on the inside there. Ekendeo has started to slow, definitely. I think some of the will has come out of Ekendeo here. And, Corcoran is maybe finding a bit more of a home for his work, but he's still not doing it in an overly convincing fashion. Got a lot more hugging going on, punches of 0 note. Ref splits them up with 31 seconds left in the round, and they're picking again from range. And I hate to say it, all of these rounds like this, I am just scoring to Corcoran because he's the aggressor, he's throwing the more lever, and the fight is so devoid of quality, so devoid of noteworthy punches and exchanges and combinations that you kind of left with little else to score it to but the aggressor, in my opinion. And again, there's lots of heads going in, lots of forearms going in from Corcoran. He's really positioning Ekendeo. Round 8 way over, I've got Corcoran 6-2 up. He does appear to have a cut over the eye. Potentially, it'd be interesting to see how bad that is. He does appear to be bleeding from the eye. Potentially a nasty one. I'll have to have another look at that. But, really, he's been leading with his head repeatedly for several rounds. So, I don't know quite how that's happened, but if you're going to lead with your head and if you're going to be putting your forearm in at every possible opportunity, cuts are likely. Andy's got it 6-2 to Corcoran, same as me. Yeah, Big Hitman's got it 5-3 Corcoran. Daniel's got it 6-2 Corcoran. Connor says, you excited for the Mayweather-McGregor press conference? Not really. Let's hope McGregor tries to sell it, hey? Craig said could be anything, this decision. I'd have agreed with you after 4 or 5 rounds, but I do think Corcoran is definitely doing enough now. I think Ekendeo is really failing. Maybe he's failing more than Ekendeo is actually... maybe Ekendeo is failing more than Corcoran is winning, but I do think Corcoran is en route to winning this fight. I've got him 6-2 up, and Ekendeo already, quite heavy exchanges there. Ekendeo caught Corcoran with a sweet punch as Corcoran's run in, but even despite that, it's the pattern of Corcoran coming forward, positioning Ekendeo, making Ekendeo's back touch the ropes, Corcoran working Ekendeo into a corner. Ekendeo is trying to throw nice punches here. Corcoran's not going to get stopped by Ekendeo anytime soon, it doesn't look like, but his chin really is up in the air. It's very slappy, very sloppy, but Corcoran's defensive frailties are going to mean he's in exciting fights in future. We've got 2 minutes left of round number 9, and it will be of no surprise to hear that the two guys are hugging in the centre of the ring, and Gary Corcoran yet again appears to be putting his head in, and again, and it's actually getting nastier from Corcoran. The referee's having a word with them. From my side, it's Gary Corcoran here who's the one to blame. I think he should have a point taken off personally. It's gone from being a little bit of a feature of this fight to actually being quite cynical from Corcoran. He's doing it again. He's really leading with his head. It's not nice to see. For me, the referee needs to be doing more to stop this here because he's doing it every time he comes in now, Corcoran. And there's a lot of head clashes here. It's not pretty to watch. Ekendeo still not doing enough for me here. Corcoran just bringing the pace, bringing the power, and probably en route to taking another round here as we come to 50 seconds left of round number 9. Lots of hugging going on again. Lack of variety, really, from both guys. Easy for me to say sitting here on the sofa, but I like to think if I was in the corner of either one of them, you'd at least attempt to come up with some sort of strategy as to some variety or some, evolution that you would ask your man to bring. And they're both just doing the same things round and round and round and round after round, and it is frustrating. The heads now are getting ridiculous. The ref was now warning Corcoran for it, but it's too little, too late. That was stupid from Corcoran. I'd have taken a point off there definitely. Come towards the end of round 9, and Ekondeo still looking to pick from reins. But for me, whilst it's tight, whilst it's messy, another one you're probably scoring in favour of Gary Corcoran. Probably 7-2 to Gary Corcoran. Ekondeo just not doing enough. The theme of the fight continues. Let me know how you guys are scoring it. Daniel's got it 6-3 Corcoran. Big Hitman's got it 5-4 Corcoran, so potentially slightly closer than my scorecard. You guys have still got Ekondeo in this fight if he is able to find another level and is able to start picking up rounds again. Round 10 is beginning. They're picking away here. Corcoran seems to be, again, trying to put Ekondeo on the back foot. Ekondeo trying to pick from range. He's caught Corcoran there with a left hook to the chin. He's, fairly decent shot that. But as we've already established, he just doesn't have the power to really hurt Gary Corcoran, it appears. Referee splits them up. 2 minutes 15 left to run in round number 10. And it's real windmilly, messy type stuff here. Oh, Corcoran using his head so regularly on the inside. The referee really not doing an adequate enough job here. He warned him in the last round. If you're going to warn him, follow up on it. Tell you what, if Gary Corcoran manages to get a point or two deducted, maybe it's a fight that could go either way. But for me, quite cynical stuff here. And head goes in again with 1 minute 40 left of round 10. Very, very little punches of note so far. Ekondeo has caught Corcoran there. And Ekondeo maybe has Corcoran hurt. Ekondeo's got Corcoran in trouble here. Out of nowhere, Ekondeo's caught Corcoran clean on the chin. And Corcoran's wobbled a bit. Corcoran's gone back to the rope. He looked very, very messy there going backwards. Corcoran really got caught clean there. And I don't know if he's getting tired. I don't know if it's the regularity with which he's eating punches on the chin. But just for a couple of seconds, he looked very, very off balance. His legs appeared to stiffen. And Ekondeo's caught him again there. Corcoran's come in. And Ekondeo's clipped him again with a short left hook to the chin. Corcoran seems to have regained his senses a bit. He's less wobbled, but this is good, better stuff from Ekondeo here. And Corcoran is still just charging forward, and he looks very raggedy. He's very open to getting countered here. Very, very open indeed to getting countered. He lands a nice shot there to Ekondeo, but he's getting clipped here, Corcoran, and he's just charged in, and Ekondeo's kind of switched underneath him, and Ekondeo's now catched him. He's just landed an uppercut on his chin, and Gary Corcoran is potentially in trouble here. We've got 30 seconds left in the 10th. I think he's a bit out on his feet. He's very tired. He's been caught with several notable punches. Ekondeo doesn't quite seem to have the power to take him out of there. But Corcoran is in all sorts of bother here. It looks like he's got very little left, and he's wobbled again, and he goes backwards, and he goes back to the ropes, and he's holding on, and he really, really, really seems to be out of puff here. Gary Corcoran. Ekondeo counters him coming in. Again, not a punch of any note. But we go to the end of round number 10, and that is a very, very definite Larry Ekondeo round. And Corcoran looks in real trouble in his corner. In real trouble in his corner. this fight just got interesting. It's taken 10 rounds, 9 rounds of pure pain, wanting to gouge your own eyes out. The 10th round livened up a bit, and it's livened up a bit because Gary Corcoran hasn't learned from his mistakes. His corner hasn't given him the right advice, and he has persisted to charge in with his chin straight up in the air and to get clipped over and over and over again by Ekindeo. And I'm just seeing on the replay Ekindeo catching him coming in, seeing on the replay Ekindeo landing a hook that kind of catches him around the back of the head. And that's a definite Ekindeo round. I've got it 7-3 to Gary Corcoran, although I do acknowledge it could be 6-4. Some people in the chat maybe have it even closer than that. I've still got Corcoran ahead here, but it just got interesting. Let's see how Corcoran's recovered. We're into round 11, and we've had 5 seconds so far, and the guys are picking from range. Let's see if we can get an early indication in this round as to how Corcoran's recovered, because he looked out on his feet at the end of round 10. Ekindeo seems content to jab and pick in the early rounds, in the early seconds of round number 11. And it does, the impression you get from the first 30 seconds is that perhaps Gary Corcoran has recovered. His legs seem to be a bit firmer underneath him. He's moving a bit better. Perhaps that fitness, that youth, he's allowed him to recover in the minute between rounds. Ekindeo picking with the jab, possibly taking an early lead in this round. Corcoran still looking to come forward, still looking to apply pressure, maybe trying to do it a bit more conservatively. He's trying to pick with his jab, he's trying to shuffle in. He's less, wide when he's swinging in a massive punch. Maybe his corner have told him that he needs to stop doing that after what happened in round 10. Ekindeo, he's moving all right in there. He's trying to pick a jab. He needs to transition himself into a position where he can land punches like he did land in the last round, because he had Corcoran in real trouble there. And for my money, that was against the run of play. Halfway through round 11, in what has been a cagey round, I'd have liked to have seen Ekindeo try and force the pace a bit more in this round, bearing in mind he's probably behind in this fight, and bearing in mind his opponent was very hurt. Corcoran is putting the pressure. The head is going in all over the place. If the referee takes a point from Gary Corcoran for the head, which he really should, this fight becomes very, very tight. Ekindeo's just caught Corcoran again with that right overhand cross-type punch that he throws. And Corcoran has eaten that punch half a dozen times this fight. No adjustment from him, no awareness from him whatsoever. You know, this is not a guy who is going to go to the highest levels or anything even approaching that with this sort of lack of defense. 45 seconds left of round number 11. And we're back to doing what the two guys have done most tonight, which is hugging each other. Both guys picking away with the jab. Frustratingly, you know, Corcoran really, really rough, trying to like almost palm Ekindeo's head back and putting his head in. Really, really inadequate response from the referee as far as I'm concerned. Frustratingly, from Ekindeo's perspective, I actually believe you could score this round to Corcoran potentially with 10 seconds left. Ekindeo maybe has not done enough. And Corcoran, he's palming Ekindeo's head up. He's palming it up and then throwing with the other hand. Really poor stuff. Really, really needing involvement from the referee. End of round 11, close round, could go either way. I'm going to give it to Gary Corcoran. Yet again, Larry Ekindeo did not do enough in that round to win. And it's very frustrating. If you look at the punches Ekindeo has landed in this fight, if you look at the fact that you know, he appears to be the more technical, more skilled boxer. This really is a fight Ekindeo should be ahead in. I've got it, I think I've got it 8-3 after 11, although I'd accept 7-4. But for me, I really need to see knockdowns from Ekindeo to win this. Big Hitman says, some of these rounds are a nightmare to score. I agree. Very messy, very scrappy, very little of note. He's got it 6-5 to Gary Corcoran. I've got it slightly wider than that, I must admit. I do have it slightly wider, but interesting. Interesting that some of you guys still have a chance of a draw here, depending on how round 12 goes. And we are now 15 seconds into round 12. So let's see how it pans out. Just not seeing the urgency I want to see from Ekendeo here. He's kind of picking away. He's content to hold. He's content to stand off. You know, I'm not seeing enough. Gary Corcoran, this inside fighting from him is he's committing arrestable offences. You know, the referee really has not done a good job here of controlling that. Ekendeo could probably be doing a more vocal job of flagging it to the referee, but fundamentally it's the referee's job to pull him. I believe I saw a warning earlier on in this fight. I really do believe a point should be taken off for Gary Corcoran's behaviour here. Anyway, 2 minutes left. Ekendeo picking with a jab. Corcoran lunges with a power punch and again misses wildly as Ekendeo ducks underneath it. It's a very scrappy, messy round 12, as is the pattern of the fight so far. Corcoran is still very wide, very sloppy coming in. His head is going in again and again and again and again and again. He's landed the headbutt more than he's landed his jab. Seriously. He's getting caught on the way in again, Corcoran. But is it enough from Ekendeo? You know, he's landing one-punch counters as Corcoran charges in. That's what he's doing. And you just wonder, is it enough? Is it enough when you've got the volume and the consistent come-forward aggression of Gary Corcoran? We've got 1 minute and 5 seconds left of the 12th round. And this is a cagey round. It's a round that you could score either way. Now, with a gun to my head, I'd give it to Larry Ekendeo, but I wouldn't complain if you guys are scoring it to Gary Corcoran. Very tough fight to score. Corcoran gets caught again with a hook on his way in. He's really, really sloppy. His chin is straight up in the air. There's very, very limited guard. His hands are often down by his waist, especially when he's engaging. 40 seconds left. And we're back to the hugging, and the referee steps in, split them up. 30 seconds left. Corcoran misses with 2 or 3 punches before landing one on Ekendeo. Ekendeo's caught Corcoran hard coming in there, but it hasn't had the desired effect. And we're back to hugging. The referee splits them up, and we've got 15 seconds left of the fight. Woeful stuff, guys. A semi-interesting round 10. Woeful stuff otherwise. Ekendeo lands a 1-2, makes Corcoran misses a few times, bounces away, pivots a little bit, and then we're back to hugging with backs to the ropes. Referee splits them up. Fight is over. Corcoran is celebrating. It appears the more confident out of the two. Ekendeo looks very tired. He looks a little bit disappointed. I've got it 8-4 in favour of Gary Corcoran. 8-4 in favour of Gary Corcoran. Let me know your final scorecards, guys. I don't think my throat is going to hold up for anything longer than the final results here. So we will get the results, and then I will suit off and come back later with some post-fight reactions. Cameron says, draw for me. I don't think Corcoran deserves it. Too dirty. Totally agree, Cameron. He didn't look good. He was very inaccurate, very poor technically, very dirty. But Ekendeo didn't do enough for me. Daniel's got it 7-5 Corcoran. Cameron's got it a draw, 6-6. Yeah, I have it wider than that, I must admit. I have it 8-4 in favour of Corcoran. I'm happy with a 7-5 scorecard. I don't really feel you can give 6 rounds to Ekendeo here. I really don't. I just don't think he did enough of note. Let's have a look, see what the judges. Andy's got it 7-5 Corcoran. Brown Boy's got it a draw, 6-all. Jonathan's got it a draw. Interesting. I think Corcoran's done enough here, guys. I do. Sam's got it a draw. Very interesting. Right, I'm just going to put myself on mute when the scorecards are announced, and then I will come back live with a bit of reaction once So, guys, we had a split decision. First judge, 7 rounds to 5, 115, 113 in favour of Gary Corcoran. Corcoran even. Second fight, second judge had it Larry Akindeo, 114, 113. And the fourth judge had it 114, 113 in favour of Gary Corcoran. I wonder if some of those judges scored round 10 in favour of Larry Akindeo. I'm wondering if that's the case. Clearly a very, very, very close fight. I had Corcoran winning a little bit wider than that. I had it 116, 112. I could accept 115, 113. Find it very, very hard to give Corcoran this fight. To give Akindeo this fight. I just don't think he did enough. Don't get me wrong, Corcoran was pretty poor, but very, very, very. For me, I had Corcoran winning a little bit wider than that, which I guess it's one of those fights that are quite open to your interpretation. It was a very close fight. Let me implore Frank Warren not to make a rematch. This is not a fight that we need to see again. That was a stylistically terrible fight. It had a minute of action, but I think the right man has won, and it's certainly not one we're going to see again. Guys, my throat is killing me. I've been just ranting for an hour 15, so it's had enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to call this live stream a day, and I think what I am then going to do is proceed to watch the boxing at home and then do some post-fight reaction videos throughout the course of the night. So if you've enjoyed this, please hit the thumbs up. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned, because I will make sure that I post at least one further video before I go to bed tonight. Many thanks indeed for tuning in, guys. I hope you all enjoy the fights, and look forward to catching up with everyone very shortly indeed. Cheers, guys.